This is Sarah Milligan with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. Today's date is June 17th, 2016. I am in McCurtain County talking to Dr. Lewis Stiles. This is for the Cowboy in Every County Oral History Project, McCurtain County. All right, so just to get started, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, maybe a little bit about your parents, if you have any siblings, just that sort of background information.
Okay. Born in Anona, Texas, A-N-N-O-N-A, a little town in Red River County across the line. My grandfather lived in this place here at that time. He bought it in 1910 and had moved in 1910. He died in 1932. When I was 2 years old, we moved over here and moved in the house.
Oh, here we're at right now?
Yeah, well, yeah, we grew up in that. I grew up in the museum.
Oh, you blew in the Gardner house?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
My sister and I was 2 years old, she was 3 months old. And that's all of the family, the immediate family.
So you grew up in McCurtain County?
Yeah.
Here? You grew up here?
Right
where
here.
We're at. Okay.
My father took this place over. He ran cattle on the open range between here and Beavers Bend Park, which is about 8 miles. So I grew up riding a horse. We grew up on the range, on horseback nearly every day, looking after those cattle. And he stayed on the open range until 1945, when, of course, I'd have been 15. In the meanwhile, he and I, when I was available, were cleaning up these pastures. And we did it by hand with hand axes, and we had no chainsaws, and planting them, improving them, so he had pastures to run cattle on. And he quit the range then, sold all the cattle off the range, like I said, in 1945. Actually bought 4 purebred heifers from his brother, my uncle, and started the herd. We ended up with a purebred Hereford herd of cattle here that he had until he called me and told me he wanted to sell a cattle and wanted me to send him a buyer after I was in practice out at Holdenville in the late 50s. And I sent a buyer down there and he bought them. And actually, incidentally, I ended up buying a few of those cattle back and bought a place up there at Holdenville, and I ran the same cattle up there until I moved back down here, and I sold them out and quit. But I bought some cattle after I come down here.
After you came back here in the 70s?
Came back in 1970, Labor Day weekend.
Oh.
In 1969, February 1969, I went to work for the federal government as a field veterinarian, in which we were attempting to eradicate diseases and control diseases in livestock, and sometimes pets, but primarily livestock. And they trained me for a year and then assigned me here in McCurtain County. So my wife and kids and I came and moved in the museum. I had them in there 5 years while we built this house we're sitting in. And when we got here, we started cutting trees. Every bit of this lumber, we cut the trees, carried them to the mill, had them milled. And so it's all lumbered off this place.
All the lumber in the house we're in right now is...
Even the pine lumber that frames the houses all come off this place.
Wow.
And we finally got all our lumber and everything in shape. Let's see, I think we started in '74 building this house. And it was, I had some contractors here and there. We got it framed up. And then we built it from there on. My family and my high school shop teacher, Robert Wade. He kind of kept me out of trouble because he had a lot of experience. And he was a real good friend, of my family's all through those years. And just to give you an idea, this whole house is paneled in 3/4 inch lumber. It looks like, it's sort of like paneling. But you buy it, it's not thin, it's full lumber. Tongue and groove lumber we put together. But we got set up an assembly line, and I sawed the lumber to length and ran a 3/8 inch groove down one side of each one of those boards. My youngest daughter took a toothbrush and stained each one of those grooves with a toothbrush.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The oldest daughter was going to college, I think, or she wasn't available much. She worked what she could, and she finished the walls in her room. All the kids finished the walls in their room themselves. Each kid had a room, and my son then worked with Mr. Wade. They would you had to pry this lumber with a crowbar in place, and he'd hold it while Mr. Wade drilled a hole. You got to drill a lot of it and nailed it. So they put it together.
Why did you decide to do this? That's a huge
this
project.
dream of mine had just come true. And while I was at Holville, I wanted a house that was natural lumber through. Actually, I cut one set of logs at Holdenville and had them sawed and hauled them down here. And then I had a real good guy renting this place. After my father died, he rented this place from then on. And he'd been baling hay for my father before that. And he told me one day, he said, you got 4 or 5 big cherry trees over there. Some of them are blown down. If you want me to, I'll cut those logs and carry them to the mill and get them sawed up and then put the lumber in your barn out there. And you'll have that lumber. I said, you bet. So that was kind of the start of it. And that's cherry right there. That's the lumber I'm talking about.
In this room?
The whole room is cherry.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous wood.
You work on it long enough, you know every flaw in it. But I've forgotten them now. I don't remember them. But for a while, I really got almost sick and tired of it because of course, it was hard work. What we did, we worked on this, doing all this inside work for one whole year, from 5 o'clock when he got off work and I got off work until 9 o'clock, 5 days a week, and sometimes Saturdays. And that's how we put all this together. And my wife spent all her time running supplies for us. You'd always need something, and she was available to go whatever you need. And she was making the decision of what was where and what supplies we needed, what kind of supplies to get, and which took a lot of pressure off of me. Because I was working full time, a pretty hard deal. But anyway, we got it built in 1975, and it's been my home since. I finished raising the kids here. My wife was here until she died, 2004. With cancer, and so I've been here by myself since then.
Yeah.
Got a son in El Reno now. That's where he is. The youngest daughter is in South Dakota. The oldest daughter taught school. And
so let's go back a little bit to when you were living here as a teenager. So you were here with your family, and you had cattle.
Yes, we ran cattle, livestock.
So you ran livestock. So is that primarily, was that your family's primary income when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Was livestock?
My family, yeah.
Okay.
My father's income when I was growing up, and then the whole time I was growing up.
So did you go to high school here?
Okay, I was going to tell you about that.
Okay.
I started school in Tyner School. It's just half a mile up the road.
Tyner?
One-room school.
Okay.
In 1936, and I think I was 7 years old. I may be saying wrong on those days. But anyway, I went there 3 years, and they consolidated with Eagletown. So I went to Eagletown then through the 11th grade. Okay. And my father wanted me to have chemistry. So he bought my sister and I tickets on the highway bus, transferred us to Broken Bow, and I graduated from Broken Bow then in 1948, and got that chemistry course. And it really did help me down the line.
Why did he want you to do that? Why was that
He's
important?
thinking about veterinary medicine at the time.
Oh, he already
or
was?
medicine, more likely, yeah.
Huh.
And he knew I needed the chemistry background.
Yeah. So was that something you were interested in, or something he just...
It's just something he wanted me to do, and I didn't mind doing it. You know,
yeah.
I was interested in all that. I want to go back on the veterinary bit, just a bit.
Sure.
In the early 1940s, there was a Dr. George Stiles showed up here, and he was investigating, researching a disease in cattle called anaplasmosis. If you want to write down, I'll spell it for you.
Spell it for me.
ANAPLASMOSIS.
Okay.
And the kind of interesting thing about anaplasmosis, got to go back a little bit in history. When the cattle drives came across Oklahoma, that most everybody's familiar with, they brought a fever tick, Texas fever tick, out of Texas, from South Texas, that spread Texas fever and cattle. And it was such a bad disease that at one time the people on the Kansas, it didn't go much further than Kansas, but the winters killed it out. But people on Kansas border stood there with rifles and turned them back at one time because they didn't want Texas fever. It didn't kill the South Texas cattle so much because they had some immunity. But these cattle were completely unimmune, completely naive, and it killed them like flies. And well, when Oklahoma became a state, this is part of my background, 65 counties were quarantined because they were infested with Texas fever ticks and Texas fever. And just to illustrate what it meant, if your county was quarantined, your cows were $3 a head. If it was clear and the quarantine was released, they were worth $10 a head. So it was worthwhile, but this is kind of important to me. The local people here in southeast Oklahoma resisted. The Oklahoma Department of Agriculture came in here in 1921 and built 150 dipping vats. That's how you got rid of the Texas fever ticks. And after about a year, they got disgusted with the program and blew up nearly all of those vats one night. The one on my place here, is the pieces of concrete are still laying over there.
So they had a dipping place here?
Yes, there was a dipping place here. They had to have them close enough you could drive your cattle to them because cattle had to be dipped every 2 weeks for a year. And it's quite a chore. That's one reason the people resisted, and they just resisted the federal government. The federal government was primarily pushing the eradication of Texas fever ticks. But anyway, this Dr. George Stiles is investigating anaplasmosis, which had been masked by the Texas fever tick, and we didn't know we had it at all until we eliminated Texas fever. And the cattle were still dying with some of the cattle were still dying with similar symptoms, and we had them dying all over these mountains. And he was investigating that and researching it, and came here. They got cattle up, he drew blood samples, and he got me under his wing while he was here. I was probably 12 or 13 years old. This is where I get some of my interest in veterinary medicine. He took me aside and showed me some strange insects we had here, and he just really took me in. George Stiles was here, and his folks had homesteaded in near what's the oil town east of Stillwater?
Cushing?
Cushing. Near Cushing.
Is he related to you?
No,
Oh.
but he had the same name. And he was pretty young when they homesteaded, and they lived there. And he went to OSU, and it wasn't a veterinary school, so and I guess it was a medical school, so he gets his MD.
Mm-hmm.
But then he goes to work for this U.S. Department of Agriculture. Then it was the Bureau of Animal Affairs, which is who I worked for. They changed the name every year or two. So, and worked in the Agricultural Research Service division of that. So that's what he was doing. That's what he's doing down here. But he encouraged me a whole lot about veterinary medicine, and so that's kind of the first inkling I was interested in veterinary medicine. Later we had a local uneducated veterinarian came, delivered a calf, and I watched that all happen, and he got the calf delivered anyway, and it kind of intrigued me. That's just some background.
I got it.
I wanted to get in there. Now tell me where to go.
So did he understand, did Dr. George Stiles understand, or did you understand what he was doing while he was here?
Yeah, I remembered it. Yeah, I still remember it today.
Yeah.
In fact, they asked us to do pick a disease and do a research on it and write up an article on it. Guess what disease I picked? Anaplasmosis. I still got a copy of it somewhere.
That's cool. Okay, so you graduated from Broken Bow High School in 1948.
Yes. Went from there to Murray State College at Tishomingo.
Mm-hmm. Why did you end up going to Murray State?
Because it was close and it was cheaper. Some of the other kids were going there. I didn't know anything else, but it was 350 miles to Stillwater then, and so it was a big help. And I was hitchhiking back and forth to school at that time. I learned to hitchhike. Ed Murray had a friend hitchhiking, and he taught me how to hitchhike there, so I started hitchhiking.
So what do you do to teach someone to hitchhike? What do you need to learn?
Oh, for one thing, first thing you learn is you don't ever hitchhike from the backside of the town you're going through. People they're just going to town, but you get on the other side, they're going on to the next town. And Shawnee was the worst in the whole bunch. It's such a long walk from the south side. It was then. See, we're coming from the south side to the north side. I hated to get let out on the south side of Shawnee. And I tell a lot of tales about that hitchhiking, but we won't get into those. But
no, that's interesting. Okay, so you spent a year in Murray?
Two.
2 years in Murray?
Graduated at the top of my class. Now, that's kind of important for a story on down the road.
Okay.
Important for what my father did.
Well,
I did hitchhike to Stillwater, and a buddy and I used to hitchhike to Stillwater and pre-enrolled in animal science before school was out at Murray the year I graduated. And then I came on home after I graduated, and I came home every summer but one, and I was in college, and I was in college 7 years. But I came home here, and I just come home, went to work. We was working around here. We was still clearing land and cleaning it up, and I always had plenty to do, and then I had time to fish and hunt too. And after I'd been here a week or two, my father called me aside. And he said, if you want to go to vet school and be a veterinarian, I will support you if it takes 5 years. And here's really the kicker. Luke Benton, who just lived across the river there, is going Tuesday. And you can ride with him and pre-enroll. He had it all worked out. Of course, I jumped at it, and that's how I got into vet school.
Oh, that's great. So it sounds like he had that in his head.
He had it in his head. Yeah, I think he had the doctor because some of the rest of them wanted to be doctors. There was some doctors in the family back down the road. Mm-hmm. Especially on my mother's side, there was 2 or 3 doctors. Mm-hmm. He wanted the doctor, but he settled for the veterinarian.
Well, so what was let's talk about Murray just a little bit.
All right.
What did you major in there? What were your classes? I think it was your 2 years, but you still probably had focus.
It's mostly general required classes for a course in agriculture. Mm-hmm. I took agriculture classes, and then I took English and history, and I never had a math course in college, not one. I had 2 or 3 math courses in high school. Math was always easy, and I got to Stillwater. I had to take 2 semesters of physics, which is kind of math. Didn't have a bit of problem with it. I had a classmate that sat by me, and he was a math major, and got in and going to vet school. And I had to carry him through that class. Physics is tough if you can't see the picture. But anyway, I did take a course in embryology and a course in comparative anatomy.
While you were still at Murray?
No, I did that at Stillwater.
Oh,
first
when you
year
went
at
to Stillwater. Okay, I got it.
Applied for vet school and got in.
Okay. So
I didn't have straight A's, but don't think I had a grade less than a B.
That's probably important if you're
getting in vet school is very important even today.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you were there a total 7 years. Maybe.
Well, it was 2 years at Murray and 5 at OSU.
And 5 at OSU. So maybe let's talk a little bit about when you first went to Stillwater. What did you think about it? Had you ever been there before you went to enroll?
Oh, no. I'm pretty much overwhelmed. And it really got to me after I'd been there a while, and you could walk all the way across that campus and seemed like see thousands of students and didn't know any of them. And, you know, and I hear I'm an old country boy, a long ways from home in a big campus. It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
But I had friends and classmates who were in the same boat, so we just kind of tend to draw together.
Mm-hmm. So you did know other people. I know you went to enroll with people, but you did know other people at OSU while you were there from here, from Broken Bow?
No, not from Broken Bow, but well, there was a couple I'd see on campus once in a while, but not in vet school.
Mm.
But I had a real, well, let me tell you about that vet school. And maybe I'm out of line here, but you can put it in line. 42 of us were accepted in 1951 in the fifth class, I believe. And when it's all said and done, 31 of us graduated. The rule was if you made 1D, you were out. But you could go the next year and take the whole course over it. And I don't mean just the one, a whole batch over. And if you didn't make a D then you went on. And there's 4 or 5 of my classmates did that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, some of them had family, a real good friend had family problems, and his father got sick or something, he had to go, and all kinds of things like that. One thing, they divided us most of our labs into teams of 2. Well, when we get to going good, we just got 31 students. And my name is second from the last. So they took the last 3 students and put them together in a team. I don't know if you might not want this in there, but in my junior year in vet school in surgery, we were assigned just exactly like that. Each team got a dog, and they were responsible for keeping that dog alive all the way through 3 hours of surgery. But we got 2 dogs for 3 of us. And we had to keep those 3 dogs alive all the way through surgery. So we got a little more experience, but it's a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. But had a real good friend, I developed a real good friend that lived on Illinois River. We had lots of stuff in common. And his was one of those 3. His name was Lewis Stiles. He's still alive. I haven't seen him in a good while. Let's see, Bob Ramus dead. He was one of them. And, oh, that's the 3rd one. I'm still alive.
Yes, you are.
So, but anyway, that's kind of the way it was. And we all went to the same class every day for 4 years at the same time.
The 3 of you?
Or all 31.
All 31. Wow.
One exception was we had missed a course in genetics because they required it in vet school 1 year, and they put it in, and now this happened to be the year I come on vet school, they moved it back to pre-vet. So we dismissed it. Well, we got, I don't know, second semester or something, we got 20 hours. You imagine taking 20 hours one semester?
Mm-mm.
Then we added 3 more. It took 23 hours one semester just to get that genetics. And I'd been there long enough that I'd learned how to learn. You got to learn how to learn. And it was just plumb funny to me to hear those poor ag students, they was all ag students, but moan and groan about how hard that was, and we just sailed through it.
Comparatively. Well, so I think that's interesting if this was only the 5th, did I understand that right, the 5th class in the veterinary science school?
Yes. See, what has happened, after the major wars, they established more additional veterinary colleges here and yonder to educate those veterans coming back. We were 17, I believe, 17 schools that was organized. Mm-hmm. It's about 20 now, 21 or 2. Mm-hmm. One in Canada. The nearest one now, Texas A&M's had one a long time. Kansas State and Colorado State each have had vet colleges a long time. They've now got one in Louisiana that's a 2 or 3 state college. And let's see, Auburn, Alabama, had 2 in Alabama, and Tuskegee, which is all black.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually had a Tuskegee graduate come here and was a veterinarian for us for several years right here in the county, Dr. Blackwell. And I pulled a pretty bad trick on him one time, didn't do it intentionally. My daddy made a date with him to remove a cow's eye that had cancer eye. And he told me to go get the cow up. So I go get the cow up, shut the gate, we had a corral right over there. And then I come back and wait on him, and he gets there, we go over there, and that hide-burned cow has pushed the gate open, got her out. Well, I got to come saddle my horse. I don't think I saddled her. I got to get my horse, and I go up there and hunt her up and bring her back, and he's sitting there asleep, and I come back. I never did know what he charged for that, but he had to sit there and wait a good while. He was a good veterinarian.
Was this while you were a teenager?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have been a teenager, yeah. I guess I was still a teenager when I went to college. This is
Well, yeah, but...
before I went to college, I think.
So he was a good vet?
Yeah, and likable. I think he ended up with a pretty bad drinking problem, but he ended up going back to Tuskegee and taught in their system for years. And I had a classmate that went to Auburn and taught for his whole career.
Well, so if it was only the fifth class that they had, did you feel like they knew what they were doing by that point?
Oh yeah, we had a crackerjack set of professors. Some of them are highly prejudiced, and some of them are hard to deal with, but yeah, we had good professors. They were just as gung-ho as we were.
Mm. Were they prejudiced because they'd have favorites, or prejudiced in a different way?
Well, they were prejudiced primarily because we had the first female student who went through.
Did you?
Yes, we did. June Ivan. They were hard on her, especially one professor. And my friends, and she was kind of in with us to some extent. We did our best to support her. She was a Pennsylvania Dutch and just as tough as a boot, and she had to be tough as a boot. She had a live-in partner with her that came and worked in the hospital and supported them. They lived together the rest of their life. And she had a lot of big cats through her life. She liked big cats. She went back to Pennsylvania. I think she went to Washington State for a while, but ended up in Pennsylvania practicing. And I liked June. She kind of supported her and felt sorry for her being so far from home. On Easter Sunday, she brought her down here, and she spent a weekend with me down here. And we got here, and it was raining cats and dogs. And it rained all night. And daylight the next morning, my daddy's hollering, we got to get some horses and get them cattle out of that. We had a trap down there that the river got up, it cut them off, and then they go over the whole thing and drown them bad. We never did lose one. My whole life, we never did lose one down there. Had some neighbors, cows that got in there and got drowned. Anyway, we were on horses as soon as we could go, and the river was coming up, and just to give you an example of how it was coming up, the water was knee-deep when we went in there, where we had to cross down there. And the old cows, we couldn't make them come out. They couldn't make them take the road they're supposed to come out. They run over us, back over, just double back over. We're both good cowboys. We'd had lots of experience. 3 times. So finally he said, let's take them to the north end, and that kind of come like this, and we kind of forced them. And we got up there, and they hit the water, and he said, you go on, push the rest of them across. My horse, I'm afraid to walk down here. Well, I get up there and push them across. My horse back down, was down. But it was real muddy, and she just pushed me down in the mud. I didn't have a saddle on. I was riding bareback. We got the old cows out, and we come out there, and we had to swim our horses to get back out there. That's how fast the river was coming out.
Did she go with you?
No. No, we didn't have a horse. No. I don't know if she ever rode a horse in her life or not. I didn't. She stayed there with my mother. Mm-hmm. She did tell me after we got back to college that she said, I gained a lot of respect for you this weekend.
Well, I that's just unexpected. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think about this. So that's just another element. Not only were you in early class, but you were the first class with a female going through it. So
I considered her a friend and was considered myself a friend to her.
yeah. So but if,
And my whole group did.
so what were some of her challenges? Do you remember? Because it sounds like it was obvious that there were some challenges with the professors.
It was with the professors. I didn't ever see a student to complain. I hate to even tell you what I know, some of it, but I'll tell you may not want to know there. Are we recording?
Yeah, we are recording. I actually think it's really important because if people don't know that there were ever hurdles to go past for some of this stuff, then you don't know how far you've come.
I'll tell
for
you this story. I heard happen.
Okay.
We had a professor, and I won't tell you his name.
That's okay.
It was tough. I will tell you, he taught radiology, but that wasn't all he taught. He taught surgery too. But I heard him tell another professor one morning that we're wasting all this money training this female. She's going to get married and get pregnant and never put in a day of practice. Another example that sticks in my mind, and taking the test for that surgery class at the junior year, we spent all morning, and I don't know if I guess I'll tell you, and each one of us assigned a dog, except we're assigned 2 in the 3 back there, me and the other 2 boys. And we've got to pass that course, we've got to keep that dog alive for 3 hours. Well, we get about halfway through that class, and one of our dogs died. And we just kind of laid a cloth over him, and the professor he used to whip up front, he never come back there. He knew that dog was dead as well as I did, and he just overlooked it for us. And we just quit that one and finished with the other one, the 3 of them. That's what we were kind of back and forth anyway when we were doing it, but we just forgot that one. Wow. We lost our dog, but we passed the course. Poor old June. Now, I don't even know what happened. Had to come back on Saturday and do the whole test over. Of course, I almost said his name, but I'm not going to. He had to be there too, put his time in too, you know. And her partner had to put his time in.
Did her dog die, or you don't know?
I don't know. I don't think it died. I'm sure that didn't happen. I don't know what happened. She did something wrong. Okay.
Does it sounds like maybe that she had to do extra work sometimes. Is that accurate?
That's one time, that's for sure.
Okay.
And just the attitude was some of those, not all of them now by any means, but some of them.
Did you ever talk to her about that? Did you know if it bothered her or if she had?
Never did talk to her about it at all. It's not something I would have done at that point in my life. I expect she'd been free with telling me what she thought, you know. But she was tough enough, she didn't let her get her down bad. I never heard her complain. She graduated along with the rest of us.
Yeah, that's interesting. So
now, 80% of the class is female.
Yeah.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah. When do you think that shift happened? Do you know?
I really don't know why that's happened. Girls looking for something to do, but why come the men drop off, you know? I don't know. Mm. You need to ask somebody up there at the vet school. They've got it figured out by now.
I'm sure they've got opinions, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you went through vet school. Tell me, maybe let's talk a little bit about living in Stillwater and being at OSU. Do you remember, did you study all the time, or did you have time to do social things or meet people? Or
we studied most of the time, especially the first year or two. And we got together, and we'd study nearly all night, especially before test. After a couple of years, most of us learned to read something and once and retain it. And we didn't have to do all that cramming for test after that. But it was tough until then. I lived in dormitory, Bennett Hall. I don't remember how long, but 2 or 3 years. I'll tell you a story about that. Hitchhiking now. got to Shawnee one time, got out on the north side, and I was hitchhiking. This guy picks me up. We're going down the road, and I'm sitting there. I see a gallon of wine sitting on the floor in front of me there in the front seat. And I didn't say anything. He said, "Hey, I got a gallon of wine sitting there. Take your drink of it if you want to." And I said, "No, I don't believe I want it." And he said, "Well, I took a big drink of it a while ago, and I can't see a thing." And I look over at the speedometer, doing 80 miles an hour. But he made it all right, and he dropped me off at the front door, bent it home.
Do you think he was telling the truth?
Oh, yes, I'm telling the truth. I don't think he was quite telling the truth, but I hope he wasn't. He wouldn't have got up that road. But
No.
that's just some of the things. There's some of them that I got into stores that's not even printable.
From
Going up the
hitchhiking?
road, yeah.
How often did you hitchhike then? How often did you go back and
Well, we
forth?
come home Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, I think. And that was it. But then you got to go back, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the highway that you came up probably came down Mantlers, it wasn't available then. We had to go through Idabel, Hugo, and then up through there. And I had one guy pick me up at Antlers one time. He said, "I'm not going to Stillwater, but I'll drop you off at Bixby where you can get a ride." Well, we get up at Bixby, and you know, them roads kind of go crisscross there out in the country. And he dropped me off at a crossroads or something there, and he said, "There'll be somebody along there a little bit to pick you up." Well, I'm standing on the road, sure enough, here come a carload of OSU students, and they picked me up and, of course, dropped me off at the dorm.
Did your parents mind you hitchhiking?
Did I what?
Did your parents mind you hitchhiking?
Never said a word. I'm sure they worried about it. But they never did mention it.
Mm-hmm.
I tried riding the bus once, and it took so long to get there, I'd rather hitchhike.
It was faster to hitchhike than ride the bus.
Yeah. Of course, they had to make so many stops, you know.
Yeah.
Toward the last year, well, I had a pickup and drove with the last year and was married. But the year before that, and maybe a little bit sooner than that, I began to make arrangements with people I had gotten acquainted with that were coming this way, and I'd pay them a little bit of gas money, whatever they wanted, and they'd drop me off. Most of them were from Arkansas. I guess all of them from Arkansas. And I got in some deals with them. One guy come around and dropped me up the other side of Mena. Have you ever been to Y City? It's 8 or 10 miles north of Mena, and it's nothing, just a wide road. It's kind of a triangle. The roads come together with a triangle. He said the bus will be along here in about 30 minutes, and they'll pick you up. Well, sure enough, it showed up. And I rode it to Queen, called my daddy, and he come and got me.
That'll get you here, though, right?
Yeah, you got to get here some way.
So, did I hear you right? You met your wife while you were in college?
Yes. She had been in college, and she was working for extension service there in the college. And it did. I don't think it's luck. I think it was a divine intervention. I noticed a flyer for a square dance, and one of the girls' dorms, I wish I could remember which one, in the basement. So I don't know if I even dressed for it. I just walked over there, walked in, and Frances was sitting at the desk taking money. And she was the only female that didn't have a partner, so we ended up dancing together the whole night. And I took her home. And I was pretty well convinced she was the one I was looking for. She was a cotton farmer's daughter, country girl. I don't want her a country girl anyway. And we dated, well, that was March, and we got married in August, so we didn't date very long.
Wow.
But I tell you, she's the best thing that ever happened to me. She was great.
Where was she from?
Mangum, Oklahoma.
Oh, she's from Mangum.
Her daddy was a cotton farmer, sharecropper. He wouldn't own land because he didn't want to pay taxes on it. But we like too much been married 50 years when she died, and well, you know, we had fights and everything else, but she threatened to kill me a few times. But
Did you deserve it, though? Did you
probably.
deserve it, though?
I didn't think so, but probably. Oh, Sometimes she misinterpreted what I was saying, I thought.
So how old were you whenever you got married then?
I was 24 and she was 21.
Okay. So you got married, you said you got married in August, and then did you graduate that following May? Did I understand that?
Got married in August and graduated next spring.
The next spring, yeah.
We lived there 1 year together.
Yeah.
Essentially what it was. Not quite, but essentially.
So did you do things like go to square dances very often? Before you met her?
No, I didn't. She said I wasn't a very good square dancer. She told me that later. But afterwards we square danced for 31 years, and then finally had to quit because of her knees and the smoke. We couldn't handle the smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a quilt back there. My youngest daughter took her square dance dresses, because there wasn't anything you do with them anyway. Cut them up and made me a quilt, and it is a beautiful quilt.
That sounds very nice. Yeah.
The youngest daughter's a big quilter. Now I lost the oldest daughter in 2013. She was a school teacher in Oklahoma City, the roughest part of Oklahoma City, until she got disabled. She got a disability retirement, and she had a hard life. Never had enough money, and she married a guy that had enough money, but he was so tight he wouldn't let her have any. Oh, I miss him though. He could fix anything in the world. He'd come here and I'd always have some jobs for him. But he became an airline pilot, and he fell in love with one of the stewardesses on that airline. And I would have fallen in love with her too. I couldn't blame him a bit. We got a granddaughter out of it, and she just got married a month ago, in April.
Mm-hmm. We can talk a little bit more. I want to hear more about where your family and how all that moved out. But let's go back to when did you graduate? What year did you graduate?
55.
I was 55. Okay. So what did you do after you left?
Yeah, I need to get into that.
Yeah.
And go backward a little bit.
Yep.
And another things that I see as divine intervention. They recommended that we work for a veterinarian between our junior and senior year as a preceptee, that's what they called us, just to get some feel for field work. And I had a friend named Don, in the class had a man named Don Patterson, and he had worked for Dr. McConnell at Holdenville, Oklahoma. And Dr. McConnell asked him to find somebody to recommend for the next year. He recommended me, and Dr. McConnell hired me. I worked through that summer, and during that summer, it's when Frances and I got married, and I've been a Methodist all my life, but she was Baptist. But anyway, I went to the Methodist church, or Dr. McConnell was Methodist, at the church there in Holdenville. She came down there and made arrangements for the wedding in the Methodist church in Holdenville, because her folks were at Mangum and my folks were here, and it was kind of a central meeting place. And she set it all up. I just let her go. And I mean, she didn't need me. She could do all that. And that's where we got married, which was a good deal. You know, Dr. McConnell and them were there, and my folks made it. My daddy and mother came to my graduation from vet school. I had a friend that told me he twisted his arm before he would do it, but they did come see me graduate.
Really?
Long drive all the way to Stillwater. But of course, that just tickled me to death.
Was that the first time they'd come to visit you then?
Oh, yes. They come to visit me after I got in practice there at Holdenville. Well, they came for the wedding, and then they came back at Holdenville, but never at Stillwater.
Yeah.
No, nobody come visit me in Stillwater. I was just a loner up there, but I had plenty of friends. And I thought the world of this boy that's up there on the Lake Chinchilla.
Yeah.
He was already married. This is kind of interesting maybe. One semester we were taking quantitative analysis, chemistry. Well, we both were behind when it's Christmas time. We can't get they give us a problem, and we hadn't got our problem finished. But we come on home. But we agreed to meet back there few days before the vacation was over. So we met, and they said they'd have a chemistry place open if we did want to come back. So we went back and finished our problem.
Mm-hmm.
But and he was there when I walked in that morning, and he said, "Go eat lunch with me." And his wife had fixed us lunch, and I've never had one like it since. It was scrambled eggs and weenies cooked together. Of course, you know me, I'm always hungry. Old country boy. The food was good, and I ate in the dormitory. I need to go through that a little bit. You mentioned it a while ago. Stayed in Bennett Hall. Well, let's see. Let me back up a little bit.
Sure.
Show you where this chemistry come in.
Yeah.
And since I graduated top of the class, I made A and everything. Made A in chemistry that first semester. But when my dad took me over and dumped me out and my stuff, and he went on somebody up and got me a job sweeping floors. I swept floors for a semester. You know, I didn't mind it at all. They paid me room and board. And I'd work anywhere. I didn't mind working. I enjoyed working here. And then Miss Zimmerman, Beulah Zimmerman, at the end of the semester, called me and said, "I don't know if I want to work for her." And I said, "Yeah, I'll work for her." So I worked for her that semester. And then when I left, she said, "Come back and work for me next year." And when I get back, there's a girl she had working, and her daddy was a Methodist minister. Now see how this fits together. And he Methodist church had moved him to Tishomingo, so she and her two brothers could get 2 years of college and live at home. That's exactly what it was. Well, we worked so closely together. I fell in love with her, but she was dating another guy there in Tishomingo, and it wasn't any. I would have married her if it had been later, but no, it wasn't any way I was going to get married with 5 years of college left. So she married the other guy, and he died a few years before my wife did, and we got back together, and I got to where if I could, and I was in Oklahoma City, I'd take her out to eat. We visited for, I don't know, 20 years. And I caught her she went with me to the Oklahoma Historical Society annual convention. She liked to go to those. I called her for the last one, which was in April. And she said, "When is it?" And I told her. She said, "Yeah, I can go, and I'd like to go." She said, "This will be the last one, though." She said, "I'm moving to Dallas where my daughter is." Well, she got mixed up on the date. She's old like me now. She don't remember anything what we did down there at Stillwater. But she told me she's going to move the 1st of June. I surely intend to call her one more time, but I didn't get it done. Mm-hmm. She might still be there. I might ought to try. But.
So it's somebody you reconnected with that you knew from when you were in college? She's somebody you reconnected with?
She worked there in chemistry with me that whole year.
Yeah.
That's where I fell in love with her.
Have you kept up with her this whole time?
Well, after my wife died, then we got back together.
I see, yeah. Yeah.
My sister's involved in that a little bit, and I've been bashful all my life anyway, and I wanted to call her, but I didn't, and my sister finally got us together.
So they were matchmaking for you?
A little matchmaking.
A little bit.
And she was good at matchmaking. She did a lot of it.
Well, so
I wanted to tell you about where I live.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can get it straight in my head. Well, I was going to tell you about the chemistry. I worked for her that second year and told her I was going to OSU, and she wrote a recommendation for me. I walked in the chemistry department up there and asked about a job, and they put me to work the next morning, immediately.
At OSU.
On that recommendation. So it all comes together there, and I worked there until I got in vet school. The first year in vet school, I decided I just didn't have time because we were studying so much. But I lived in a dorm all that time. I don't know, maybe the second or third year in vet school, they had a position open in the anatomy department. All it was a frame building. It had been an army building, and they had moved it in there for anatomy. And they had a room, they had a room that was free if you'd help them with the anatomy department. I had a real good professor, Dr. Dwayne Peterson. He was crackerjack. And I liked to work for him. And my job was embalming horses and whatever else that the anatomy students were dissecting. Did that a whole, at least 1 year, maybe 2. And at that time, then so I got to find a place to eat. Well, some of the other students were going to a boarding house, and somebody owned a Model A car, and I rode with them to the boarding house back and forth. Some of them lived. There was openings in the vet school. It was separate from this anatomy building. They had a vet school that was separate, but they weren't too far apart. So some of them lived out there, and they did the same thing. They got their room for living out there and helping on in the main clinic. And then I guess I worked there. Well, the first semester I had a guy from Rhode Island, and I wasn't too high on Yankees, but I learned to really like him and really admire him. Now he studied more than I did. I mean, the night I was going to sleep, him over there reading some kind of a veterinary book. I think he got a doctor's degree in veterinary pathology. He married a girl, LaRue. He married LaRue, who was from down there at Blanchard, I think, South Oklahoma City. But he went on and got his degrees, and he came back to OSU, and he was their pathology professor for most of his life.
Oh, he taught at OSU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He taught at OSU. It was a good one. I rode with him some when I was standing there. I rode with him some to the boarding house, so he'd go some.
That's where you'd get your food?
Yeah, that's where we ate. And he'd drive like a maniac. And he ran into somebody on campus one morning. We was going to eat, running in the back of a car. He was really a go-getter. Had a high-strung, just a goer, hard goer.
Yeah.
But a good student, and a good veterinarian, a good professor.
So you basically got a job that was related to their field of study that paid for your food, your room and board.
Room.
In exchange for room. Okay.
And I paid. I guess my daddy paid for my room. No, I remember writing him a check once a month or something.
Yeah, for your tuition probably. Is that what, or your?
No, for
your
the
food.
board.
Oh, the food. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did write checks for tuition too. Wasn't so high then. I figured it out one time. It cost me. I can't remember. I think it cost my daddy $1,000, 2 years at Murray, $1,000 1 year at OSU, and $10,000 for the full 4 years of veterinary school. That's what I figured it up to be. Different now. And I was fortunate that he had the money and was willing to spend it, Yeah. So I did.
Yeah.
I did. I will get back to that. But I fell out in some things that's pretty good that I enjoyed doing.
Well, so
while I was up there, I didn't associate with much of anybody but vet students. Most of us didn't because we spent so much time together we didn't have time for much else.
So when you did your practical residency time in Holdenville, tell me about that. What did you do while you worked in that clinic?
Whatever, he had me helping with whatever he was doing. He delivering calves, operating on dogs. And after I'd been there about 3 weeks, he come in one morning and said, "We're going on a 2-week vacation. It's yours. You do what you want to with it." That's yours. Oh, you think I'm going to take it to Dad? And I'll tell you a story on that. Frances come down to visit me while they're gone. And I picked her up at the bus station. She rode a bus down there. And I said, "Hey, I need some help. I got a job I need some help on." "What do you need help for?" She's kind of suspicious. I said, "I got 2 baby skunks I need to descend. I need somebody to hold them while I descend them." "Oh, no, I don't want to go back on that bus smelling like a skunk." I said, "I'll get you a rubber apron, rubber gloves, and the little skunks don't stink much anyway. I don't think we'll have a bit of trouble." "Well, okay." So she held them while I descended them. Never had been a problem. We didn't know then that they can be carriers of rabies for several months, or maybe a year or two. We quit descending them on that account. So you get it home and it's a big pet, and then it all of a sudden bites you and you're exposed to rabies.
Mm-hmm. So would people bring him to you to descent so they could keep as pets?
Right, they want them for pets. Mm-hmm. The other thing she helped me with, and I never saw Dr. McConnell put a pin and a broken leg in a dog. And it was a kind of standard procedure for us up there at the college. And dog come in while he's gone, so she's there. I got to have a little help. You got to get your pin in the leg, and then somebody got to pull that leg until the muscles fatigue, and you can line it up and put the pin in the other end. So she did that for me. So you know, this is before we get married. So she started out early on, and always was good. She was my veterinary assistant for 4 or 5 years till she had 3 kids, 2 of which were in diapers at the same time. And she said, "It's time you go hire somebody." But she was still working the practice. She'd take out after hours calls, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the people liked her. She got acquainted with her. One guy tried his best to talk her into, "You tell me what to do, we'll do a cesarean on this cow." She wouldn't do it. But, well, she shouldn't have done it. Because they didn't know enough to do it.
Right. Oh, gosh. Well, so when you graduated, was it easy for you to find a job? What was your next move?
Okay. That's another story. I'm subject to the draft for the Korean War.
Yep.
And I see that, and so I applied to the Air Force for a second lieutenant's commission, which you were qualified for as a veterinarian, to satisfy that draft requirement. Before school's out, hitchhiked down there to Oklahoma City, took the test, and did all that. And there's a guy that moved back here from California a few years ago, and he said he picked us up. There's 2 of us went down there. He picked us up that morning and gave us a ride back to Stillwater or something. I don't remember, but he did. But anyway, come school out, and I haven't heard from the Air Force. And of course, I'd worked for Dr. McConnell that summer before, and I told him what was going on. And he said, "Well, you just come on down here and work until you get that commission, and I'll be glad to have you." I said, "Okay," so I do. Well, along about July, I finally get a letter from Air Force, and they said, "You're not eligible for commission because you're married." Now, I don't figure that one out yet. So he said, "Well, just keep working." And then it turns out he's a veterinarian for the whole state of Oklahoma that recommends deferments for veterinarians at a farm practice. Guess what happened? He got a deferment for me. Now I bought him out in 1956, November 1956. He was 65 at the time. Of course, that was my deferment, and I wore that deferment out until I was no longer eligible for the draft.
Did you know he was going to do that for you?
Oh, no. I didn't know he could. No, I didn't know that.
When did you find out?
When he told me that he had done it, yes.
After he'd already done it?
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? Do you remember? Were you thankful, excited, regretful?
Yes, well, for one thing, I didn't want to go in as a private in the Army at all. So yes, I was very thankful and tickled to death, and I was still working there in that practice, which I eventually bought out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was your first private practice then, was what you bought out, his business in Holdenville?
Yeah. And I worked there. I ran that practice, and Francis and I did too, until 1969, I think it was, in February 1960. I want to tell you an incident that happened.
Sure.
I had 5 cesareans lined up one night, and I was really running behind. I started about 8 o'clock, Now Francis fed me my supper, fed me a hamburger as I sewed that cow up. I showed you how we worked together. And then how we did to save time. The daylight the next morning, I'm through with the last one of those 5. That's the all-night job. And they were scattered. They weren't all there. Some of them would bring them in. Some of them I'd have to go to their house.
That sounds crazy.
You don't believe that?
Was that pretty common to have things scheduled so tightly? And
That was the most that's the worst one I had the whole time. Actually, what I did, I got to where I had more than I could handle, and I hired a veterinary graduate from Kansas State College to come work for me. And what we did, which helped me, he said all I wanted him for was a vacation. But he took after hours call duty, emergency calls, 1 week, and I took the next, and we would alternate. Well, that gave me a week rest there. And so that's what we did, and as long as he was there, but he could work for people I couldn't. Of course, I could work for people he couldn't too, I guess. And between us, we built that practice a whole lot there in 1 year. January 1st, he tells me he's going to put in a practice in Clinton, Oklahoma. So he leaves. Well, the busiest time of year is from the 1st of March to 1st of June. They like to kill me trying to keep up to what he got and what I got there through that season.
So did you hire someone else?
No, I never did hire anybody else.
Really? Did you carry on with taking in OSU veterinary students during the summer, like your predecessor?
Never did. He was the only one that I ever hired.
He brought in?
Brought in, yeah. And he was graduated.
Okay.
But never did have a student. I don't know why. I should have. I don't know if I'd have said it's yours and I'd leave, but I probably would have.
Yeah, that's.
But we could do whatever we wanted to.
That's right. Well, so you were in private practice in Holdenville for about 15 years?
Well, altogether close to 16 because I worked for him the year before in the summer, and so it's close to 16 years.
Yeah. So what made you decide to sell it in '69 or close it up?
Well, what I tell everybody is, when I come in at night and to eat supper and I had the shakes, I thought that was normal. But when I still had the shakes the next morning, I thought it was time to do something else. It just, I probably should have hired a student to help me, I guess, but it was killing me day and night, 70 hours a week a lot of times. And I had friends that were working for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. One of them had practiced in the adjoining practice at Okima. And he was already in the service. Had a good friend down there at Hugo. He come through Murray, I think 2 years behind me. Come through vet school up there behind me. And he ended up being my boss. And one of them come to me and said, "We got an opening if you want it." And
while you were still in Holdenville, they came and said?
Of course, they called on me kind of on a regular basis anyway, and I did too. I called on veterinarians in my area just to keep up with what's going on, and kind of, it's amazing what that amounted to sometimes. But anyway, they encouraged me to apply, and they hired me right quick, and they trained me there at Holdenville. Trained me for a year, and one day my boss, Dr. Miller, called me in. He said, "I need somebody in southeast Oklahoma, and it'll be a GS-12 position after you've been working 3 years. You got to work 3 years before you get it, before you get the check anyway. And it's the last GS-12 that's going to become available for a good while, and I sure would like to have you down there." I thought about that a minute, and there's 7 counties, all the way to McAllister, Pittsburgh County, to see about that George Hughes County, where I was up there. I said, Dr. Miller, why don't you just leave? See, I got my kids in school and I'm not wanting to move bad. I said, why don't you just leave me where I am, let me work A County. He turned red in the face and got mad, and I saw that wasn't going to work, so I backed up. So I told him, well, I got to talk to my wife. I need to talk to my wife. He said, okay, go talk to her and let me know. So I'll go home and tell her. And she said, yeah, you tell him that we got to move this week because school has already started here and it's going to start Monday at Broken Bow. So I called him back and he said, get to moving. And I had a real good friend. She had a girl with a woman was my office veterinary assistant for the last 5 or 6 or 7 years I was in practice. And she did as good as Francie. She could do anything. And just with surgery or whatever, run the front, did it all. What happened, I had a young girl working for me. She left and I needed a new one. So I was looking around. The milkman then walked in and walked back, put your milk in the refrigerator and got the empty bottle. We was getting glass bottles. He walked through and said, hey, I hear you need a office assistant. And I said, yeah, I do. He said, my wife would like to have that. She said, got 10 years experience with a chiropractor down there at Allen. I said, well, send her up here. And she was, I hired her. And they become just like family to us. Mm-hmm. In fact, they adopted 2 good kids. One of them while she was still working for me, I think. And then one the next year. And those kids are like grandkids too. They're still close friends. Denny and I hunted for quail and hunted whatever was to be to hunt. They'd come down here and hunt and we'd hunt.
So that was in Holdenville?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, still there in the practice. She worked for me there in the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I left Holdenville, I hired on with the federal government as a field veterinarian. They trained me there for a year and then moved me down here.
So what did the training for a year entail? Like, what did you have to take a year to do training for in order to do your job?
Well, it amounted to contacting owners and making arrangements to test their cattle, which some of them didn't want to. Hunting people up that had sold cattle in fictitious names trying to dodge us. And a good example, I was supervising 3 or 4 guys. See, in that job, I supervised both state livestock inspectors and federal veterinary technicians. So I had both of them there, and had some good ones. They were, I think they trained me, and they probably did. One guy, Dale, I forgot his name. I sent him down to Toka to hunt up a guy that needed to make contact with him, make arrangement, test his cows. He went down there and he come back and said, I can't find that guy. I said, okay, I'll go find him. So I went down there on Saturday, and one thing I was wanting to be able to comp time, and by working on Saturday I get comp time, and then take it off to deer hunt, deer season. See, I don't have much lead time yet. And I went down there and I found the guy on Saturday and hunted him up and made a date to test him on Saturday. And I took that back and handed it to Dale. He didn't want to work on Saturday, but he didn't have any choice. He didn't ever have one he couldn't find anymore. And he was a good hand, a good fella. I liked him. I can't remember his name. It's been too many of them. I worked so many people. I wish I can't think. I don't have to tell how many people I worked here over the years.
Oh, I'm sure that's true.
A lot of turnover. And,
yeah.
And well, one time we tested all the cattle on the open range here, and they sent me people from all over the state. And I'd make them sign on Monday morning, and they'd go out and do the work, and then they go home. I tried my best to let them stay through a weekend and give them 3 days off, because some of those owners just had to work on the weekend. I got a few that would work on the weekend, but not many. One guy told me, I told him something about need some cows worked on Saturday. Oh no, that's against my religion. I said, okay, we'll line them up on Sunday. Oh no, that's against my, you can't take 2 of them now. You just got to pick one.
So tell me then, when you moved down to Broken Bow, what was your first sort of assignment when you were here?
Okay, this county had the most known infected herds in any county in the state. And they had started eradication testing all the cattle in the county in 1958.
What were they infected with?
Brucellosis.
Mhm.
That was one of the main diseases that we eradicated under my watch. These fellows had rebelled, and actually in 1958, I'm not involved, but they take them to court here in McCurtain County, and the department gets beat in court. You can't force them to test. And now we got, this is the worst county state because the disease was bad in Florida and the southeast states, and the movement of cattle flows from Florida to Alabama to Louisiana, Texas, and then north through Oklahoma. So they were bringing us disease cattle, or people were buying disease cattle. That was a real problem. So I've got the worst infected in the state. I've got some good hands, and they sent me more. And I went to work. What you got to do is talk to the owner, see if you can find out where he got his infection. Do your best to find out where he got his infection. Go test those cattle, or send somebody to go test them. I wasn't doing most of the testing. Test every herd of cows that has any exposure to this herd of cows. They sold him a cow, or he born with the other. There's all kinds of situations. So you got to go test that herd. Everything. It's what we call doing an epidemiology. And finding everything that might have been exposed to his cattle and testing them. And there's a lot of resistance here. And they knew there was a lot of it. Well, they went to court and beat it. They said, they know I'm from here. I don't think, and they want me to fight that battle. Nobody else wants it. Nobody else will take it. Well, I'm crazy enough to take it. And we fought that till 1981. That's the year we tested all the cattle on the range. And I guess in 1982 we had 10 people that were filed on for refusing to test the cattle. Now the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture had to do the enforcement. I had no enforcement authority, the state veterinarian, but I worked directly with them, and they made me my assignments, and then I made assignments to their people as well as my people. It's kind of an unusual deal, but they had 10 people filed on for refusing to test their cattle. And we went over and out of bell and spent a week putting on, getting on the stand, testifying and giving evidence. I think I spent the better part of a day on the stand. And I didn't mind the stand because I'd been on it several times. In practice, I'd been on the stand. And so I'd had other experiences. It gets a lot easier as you get. It's hard at first.
Why were you in the stand in private practice?
All right. I'll tell you the main case, and there was a couple of them. I had a lawyer call me and he said, I got some cattle that have died, and I would like for you to testify in a hypothetical situation. I'll tell you what happened there, you tell me in your opinion what you think happened. That's kind of strange. I said, yeah, I'll do that. And he was up off, and I don't think it was even in Hughes County, next county north, somewhere. So we go up there, and my neighbor went. They wanted him to testify on saltwater wells that were leaking, and he was a well driller, so he was an expert. And what he asked me, he showed me, he said, this is the layout of the place. The cattle stay most of the time we're on the west side, and the closest water is a half a mile, I believe. Maybe it's a mile. The closest water is a mile where they stay. There's salt water, there's pools of salt water over there that the oil company has left standing on top of the ground. In your opinion, that's with the symptoms I'm telling you here, what do you think happened? I think those cattle were salt poisoned. They normally won't get salt poisoned if they got fresh water, but they won't walk too far for it. Well, and I'd have to laugh at that lawyer yet. That oil company lawyer, of course, he's cross-examined me. Well, he gets through, and I step down off the stand. He asks me another question, and he don't know what he's doing. And start off down the aisle, he asked me another, and finally the judge said, "Now wait a minute, if you're gonna keep questioning, we got to put him back up here on the stand." He said, "No, I'm through." And he obviously didn't know what he's doing, and we won it. But now the waterman couldn't hear, and he was good. I hated that so bad. He couldn't hear it enough to understand what they were presenting to him, and he didn't make a good witness, and they lost the case on the water well. Mm-hmm. And he knew, he had the background.
Yeah.
But his ears were just too bad. But that's one. I had another one. I never did get on the stand, but I was ready to go on the stand. The city sewage system overflowed and went down across the guy's pasture. And I went down, and he started having some problems with calves. And I checked him out and diagnosed vitamin A deficiency, which nitrates in that sewage will cause, and determined, in my opinion, and usually if I was testified, it would be in my opinion rather than direct. I always left a little room there. In my opinion, those calves were infected, were short of vitamin A because of that flood they had. Mm-hmm. But they settled with the case, and I didn't have to testify in that one. But that's some of the cases.
So in 1982, when you were on the stand for the case where the handful of people refused to get tested, what happened there then? Like, what was that
Okay,
situation?
I'll go ahead and finish that. We spent a week on the stand. The judge takes it under consignment. The people all agreed to test your cow. They want me. If they'll bring somebody else in, they'll test them. Look, I don't have a problem with that. Not much problem with it.
So they basically said, as long as it's not that guy, it's all right?
Yeah. They were just mad at me. Because I was the one out there in front doing one forcing them to test. Mm-hmm. Even though the state had to enforce it. But, and Judge Cothran never ruled on the case. They tested their cows, which is all they wanted anyway, but it is kind of interesting to me. She never ruled on the case. 6 months she's a federal judge in Oklahoma City. I think there was some politics there. But we got it done. That was the main thing.
Mm-hmm. So when you had situations like that, you're back in your home community. What were some of the tensions? Because it sounds like there were tensions with either people you knew or people you didn't know that were in the farming community. What was that like?
Number one, they don't want the government telling them what to do.
Was that something you knew about when you came in here?
Yes, I was aware of it when I come down here.
Yeah.
Because they'd fought it already once. Those people got a local veterinarian. The first one to beat the case didn't test the cow. And I ended up with the son of one of them, I think, working for me. There was 5 or 6 of those. And I had test their cows too. I had one man that was thorn in my side, the worst, the whole bunch. He had cattle running everywhere. Could not get him to test his cow. But he was involved in that. He got the veterinarian out of LaFleur County, come down and made arrangements and tested his cows, and part of them anyway. And then he called and he wanted one of my men to finish testing them. And then one day he called me and wanted me to come up there. So I went up there and worked at testing cows, and he could be so caustic, especially to us working for the government. But I finally got enough one time and just come right back at him with the same stuff he was doing. He calmed down and he quit. He was all bluff, but he was pretty bad bluff. But and I worked out one day and I started to leave. He said, "Don't come back." Okay, it's all right with me, as long as my hand can get the cattle work. Your name is Milligan.
Yeah.
I had a young man working for me. He was there. He was one testing Charlie Boy's cow named Terry Milligan, raised at Caddo. You got any relatives down there?
Probably, yeah. We can talk about that part later.
We'll talk about it, but it just, I don't thought about it when Terry was one of the top hands in my head.
Yeah.
Maybe the top hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now what?
I wonder if that was ever uncomfortable for you in non-work life here, when there were people like that in the community that felt tension that you were representing the government, trying to tell them what to do. Did that ever impact?
I put it out of my mind when I come home. You know, and I had one call me Christmas Eve one time, threatened to whip my rear. And I said, "Come on, I'm waiting on you." And he never showed up. And you just don't let that stuff bother you.
Mm-hmm.
And one threatened to shoot me, and he might have if I went back. I just didn't go back.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of them, before it's over, I could sit down and talk to them. I did sit down and talk to every one of them. We did some more work for them. After it's all over, after he finally got over the hump, I could work with him. I never gave ground anywhere in the world. I never would violate regulations or anything, but you could not afford to. And I knew what I was doing. And I bet they told me 1,000 times I'd never get this brucellosis eradicated. And guess what? There hadn't been an infected herd in McCurtain County since 1991. Infected cows. That's 1991. I was under my. And I still will. If I get an opportunity to stand up in front of a cattlemen's association meeting or something, and it comes right, I'll remind them of that. That's just too good. That happened under my watch.
So how long did you end up having that position?
27 years. 1 year in training and 26 years here.
Mm-hmm.
And we eradicated the disease. We were one of the first county free. Remember now, we had the most infected cattle. And we had 30 when I got here, and within a year we had 100, because I was doing the epidemiology and finding these infected herds and testing them. And it took us 10 years to work it out.
Mm-hmm.
But we still had cattle, still had some people feeding the disease in behind us. That always slows you down.
Yeah. Did you have a strategy for how you got that done? Or like when you started looking at it, did you have a solid strategy for how you were going to accomplish eradication?
Well, the first thing I went to the owner and took a map with me and got him to tell me as much as he would about everything involved. And then you went from that. That's where you developed your strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're going to have to test and so forth. And we had that always set out in writing for us to do. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I was ahead of the rest of the veterinarian in the state doing it. For instance, we had to quarantine those cattle that were known to be exposed, and I was about the person to do that. And other things I did, I built forms to report what I was doing. A herd plan form, and they took nearly all those and used them statewide. I made 2, 3 of those, 4 of those forms. Mm-hmm. Because I needed it for the information, they needed it for the information.
Mm-hmm. Which did you enjoy more, the USDA job or private practice?
Private practice.
Why?
I enjoyed surgery tremendously. There wasn't much joy in the government job. It was all hard knocks and hard work. You get a feeling of accomplishment when you get a herd cleaned up, or when you get all the herds cleaned up. That's a great feeling of accomplishment, and I guess maybe that's joy. But I love that surgery. But you just can't do so much, and you can't go no more.
Yeah. Just
like those 4. Did I mention the 5 cow cesarean, and Francis fed me the hamburger on the first one? Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Well, you also talked about working 70-hour weeks.
Well, that probably is an exaggeration, but
I don't know.
I did a lot of it. I did find time to take off and go hunting or hunt Indian artifacts. I hunted a lot of Indian artifacts, and I took off in a week or so, and we'd go to Colorado elk hunting every once in a while. Mm-hmm. One of my clients come in, and he wanted to go to Colorado elk hunting. He had horses, and so we made a date. Francis and the kids went, and he and his wife and kids went. And we had a big time. We didn't kill no elk, but we killed a deer or 2. but took his horses. And I never did figure out why, but he hadn't gotten in a hurry to go home, and he left before we did with those horses. And he drove straight through with them. I never did think that was the way to do it. I thought your horses were better off if you stop every 8 or 10 hours, get them out of the trailer and walk them around and let them stand out there while hard you go eat, tie them up to something. But he didn't. He drove straight through those horses. Both were road foundered when I got back. So I had to treat them for road founder just from standing in that trailer so long. The feet get swollen. It's kind of like I do now. And one of them, this is something I never figured out. And about 3 or 4 months after he got back, somebody was riding one of them down the road, and he fell dead under him. After I'd ridden him all them mountains out there.
Yeah.
But this guy took the horses. Let's see. I think D-Ron took the horse. D-Ron was the client. He was a Oto Indian and weighed 315 pounds. Big guy. I believe he took horses the first time, and then my cousin gave me a horse, and I took him out there. The second trip that I made with Cecil B. Rowan. And that'll break a horse now. If you ride him out there, he's broke when you get ready to come back. Yeah, that horse enjoyed it, though. He just wanted that high air. He wanted to go. He's ready to go all the time. I never did. I don't know what it is. But.
So you still found time to do a lot of the recreational things that you enjoy?
And square dance.
And the square dancing.
We did it all. We went everywhere, Oklahoma City, Tulsa.
Yeah.
And we had square dances. Here we actually come down here, and we were president of the Southeast Square Dance Association, the Southeast section
Of the state?
Well, I didn't. Went about to McAllister. Oh, well, I went to Hughes County.
Mm-hmm.
And we came down here while we were president and organized a square dance club right here. And then when we moved down here, we danced in it for years. And we danced in McAllister quite a bit. Mm-hmm. We had a retreat once a year and moved on to Beavers Bend Park. Of course, I was familiar with that, you know.
Right, right. So you had lots of recreational, well, you had hobbies on top of everything else. So I wonder this, did you ever think about quitting your government job and going back to private practice?
No. I really didn't. But the benefits, there's a whole lot what draws me to the government job. And I wanted to complete my retirement to get all those benefits. Mm-hmm. By then, I didn't want any more veterinary medicine. I walked out today, I was retired, and wiped it out of my brain.
When did you retire?
Well, you got another story. I got all kinds of stories. Let me see. In 1995, my boss called me in. Been a good friend. He said, "Well, I got bad news." Well, I thought he was going to transfer Terry somewhere. He said, "You've been transferred to Iowa. You need to move up there. Tipton, Iowa." I said, "Dr. Espy, somebody's made a mistake. This won't work. See, you're forcing you can't legally force a guy, make a guy move to force him to retire." That's essentially what they were doing. And well, he just looked at me. But then this good friend of mine that was my boss to start with, he was a veterinarian, but he had a lawyer's mind. So I went straight to him, told him where we were at. So we filed grievances, equal opportunity employment grievances. And I filed, to begin with, age discrepancy, what do you say, how you say it? Anyway, grievance on age.
For age discrimination?
Discrimination. And I fired one on sex discrimination. We had a female veterinarian in western Oklahoma, and she actually gave me an affidavit. And it cost her the rest of her career. She's still working. That they had come to her, that my boss had come to her and told her they was fixing to have to downsize. and that she needed to be looking for a job somewhere else because she's on the bottom of the totem pole. And she gave me that in an affidavit. And that helped in that court case, but I still didn't get the sex discrimination. I should have. I think we should have done it, but once you get one, that's all you need anyway, you know. And the other one was a local veterinarian in Toccoa that had a lot less time than I did. Real good friend. I surely didn't want to get him messed up, but he had been in practice in somewhere in Arkansas, Salem Springs or somewhere. And he applied up there, and he got crossways with our administrative officer, and he was about ready to withdraw his application, go on. I called him and encouraged him because I knew what kind of guy he was, and I knew he'd be good for us. So he came on, and he's retired now, but he worked for a long time. But he was raised right here at Broken Bow, and his wife was raised here at Broken Bow. In fact, his wife's supposed to go to church with us, or did. Her mother died, but her daddy still goes with us. Anyway, I don't know how I got off on that, but
so you won your case, but we're still trying to finagle.
Well, yeah, I won the case, and the judge. I need to tell you about the black student in college. Because I remember that because the judge was black, a young black woman, and I thought I was in deep trouble because the regional director who had pushed my boss to transfer me to Iowa was black. And I thought, boy, I don't know. And I kind of tried to be friendly with her, and she cut me off knees on that. She didn't want me to be friendly with her, which I understood. And we tested. I was the only one testified on my side, and my boss and the regional director testified on the other side. Well, they can't hear what I say because they can't be in there. And you got to have if any one of the lawyers requested, you got to sequester any witness. So, but when they come on the stand, I get to hear what they say. And Dr. Espy almost repeated word for word what I testified to. And then you get Dr. The black guy, I can't remember his name.
The regional director.
The regional director on the stand. He made the worst witness I ever heard on anybody on any stand. They asked him, well, have you ever transferred anybody like this before? Well, I don't know. He couldn't tell you nothing, or didn't. And finally, he got to where he just wasn't answering nothing. He was saying, no answer. And he didn't have to think. He heard he said. So she ruled in my favor. She reinstated me right here. She gave me a year and a half back pay. Some of that I wasn't supposed to reveal, but I can now. I don't know, were you on tape?
Yeah.
She ordered Dr. Espy and the regional director to go and get some education on how to downsize without violating the EEO regulation. She ordered them to write her orders, to post her orders on the offices of both of those veterinarians at a prominent place where people could read them when they come in. Can you imagine that? I guess that was the end of her ruling. So I went back to work. I worked. Meanwhile, I'm trying to negotiate. I belong to this National Association of Federal Veterinarians. And it's sort of a union, and I never did like unions much, but I like that one. And they furnished the attorney for this case. And he could not charge me. And he put the case, he did the investigate and put the case on down there in Dallas, and he worked the whole way. And then he began, after the case, he started negotiating for me, tried to get the regional director to buy me out, get me retired, get me out of his hair. After 6 months, he did buy me out. And let's see, I did get $12,000 for the attorney there. I could request that, and it was part of the settlement. I took what I did. And this come from the veterinarian, my good friend. I reported sick to Iowa when I was supposed to report for a year. And they were upset. They wanted somebody in that position. I had a local doctor that was a good friend. And every month she had to write some statement that I was still sick. And she did that, I don't know how long, the whole year. And I took a year sick leave. Well, at the end of that year, they backed her in the corner and made her say that she didn't know when I would recover. So they fired me on that basis. Well, of course, all I had to do was apply for retirement. I'm old enough to retire. All along I'm old enough for retirement. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to just retire when I wanted to, not when they wanted to.
So, what year did you finally end up retiring on your own terms?
1997.
1997. And you left how you wanted to leave when you wanted to leave. Is that true?
Yeah, and I got my year sick leave back.
All right.
Which wasn't worth much to me, was worth a little bit. Just the principle of it.
Yeah. You told me to ask you about the black student in school.
Okay. In my class, again.
At OSU?
At OSU. Vet school. The first black student. And I don't know how it worked, but some way he applied and it was accepted. And I think it was pretty well understood that he was kind of there to set an example.
He was there to integrate the program there? Yep.
It's the beginning of the integration. And we had no problem with it. But he made a D. And they told him if he'd come back in the summer and take that course and get his D up, that they would put him in the class with us. And we resented that considerably because we couldn't do that. If we made a D, we had to take the whole course again. But he didn't accept it. And to my knowledge, they haven't had a black student yet.
So he decided to drop out over taking the course over?
Over taking the one course.
One course.
In the summertime.
Do you think that he earned the D?
I don't know. I'm sure he did. I think everybody was fair in those grades. They just went down the line by what your score was.
Yeah. It's interesting that you had the first woman and the first black
Isn't that
student.
something?
Yeah.
And of course, I don't think, maybe the first black was kind of worked up, but that's just accident. She come in and applied, and they accepted her. I don't know, see, then we had Oklahoma State University Vet School had contracts with certain states to train their veterinary students that qualified. And the state would furnish the money for them to train them. And let's see, I guess I think that maybe they paid part of their way to college. Arkansas was one. We had some students from Arkansas. My student from Rhode Island that was my roommate, I think he was one of them that was on contract. And also, country boys didn't care much for those Yankees. They didn't have any experience. And you had to watch them get you hurt because they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't have experience working with cattle or horses, and all of us did. So, there's a lot of things going on.
What do you think drove them to go to veterinary school if they didn't have any experience with animals?
They just want to be veterinarian. I don't know. Each one had their own reason, of course, but it was something that looked good to them, and it was available to them. And when you make it available, somebody will take it.
Yeah. Have you kept up with much of the changes in veterinary teaching over the course of your career? Do you know if things have changed much from when you went through school to now?
Well, it's changed a whole lot, and I kept up with some of it kind of in the background. Not being in practice, you don't stay as close to the school. You're using practice, you use them to help you when you get in trouble.
Like you would call?
Well, yeah. I sent a horse up there, sent animals up there that I could not get cleared up. They couldn't either, but...
Okay, I understand that. Okay, so when you retired, I maybe this is a point where I'd like to shift to sort of the other things that you're involved in, the historical stuff that you're involved in, and the community stuff that you're involved in. But I don't want to rush you out of the agricultural side. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
To go into? Did I mention anything? You got?
I got notes.
Okay, you got some notes from Kenny there.
I do. And
I had a resume, but I don't think there's anything on there I haven't talked about.
I think we covered everything that Kenny gave me.
I was glad he did that because it reminded me of some things.
Oh, good. I think that was it as far as the agricultural stuff. With your private practice and your time with the USDA and the specifically the eradicating the 13 counties for brucellosis. That was sort of the big, right? Those were some of the.
It wasn't 13 counties.
Oh, that's what he had written me. Okay.
I was involved in the 7 counties.
7 counties. Okay. Right, you said that. You said so. You made that clear. I'm sorry. So if you think of anything else, you can always, if it brings you back, that's totally fine. But
it probably will.
Okay, I'm sure that they're all sort of intertwined. But
well, yes, it all runs together. Yeah, man, I'm at the age I tell lots of tales. So I'll review some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of tales in there that I haven't told, but some of them I have.
Well, I'm sure that there's no way to get them all in the time we're here. But
actually, I have recorded 62 stories, family stories in my life and my ancestors' lives, and the youngest daughter is writing them up and putting them in a book.
Fantastic. So have you recorded them yourself? You sit down and you talk about it? And
I keep a recorder. So
good job. Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
She has gotten 22 of them done, and she's got so busy she's not doing much. But
well, that's a lot.
She'll eventually get to them. I want her to get them to where I can proofread before my mind goes,
Yeah.
Before I'm gone. And
yeah.
That's the same way. Okay, we're going to get in.
Yeah, we're
going to get in the book right here eventually.
So tell me, maybe a good place to start is a little bit where you picked off about your family property here, because I think that's you grew up on this really historic site and came back to that and spent most of your life there. Maybe tell me a little bit more about that and what that means for you.
Well, as I grew up, I heard my father give the history on this place. See, my grandfather was here only 4 years after Gardner died, the guy that owned the house, so the history was fresh. And as we were kids, we heard him, and we also acted as guides for people to see some of the things that are here on the place.
So people would come up to the house and be like, hey, tell me something about the Gardner house, or tell me about the house you live in when you were growing up?
Well, they come to see such things as a tree that was an extremely large tree. Out here we had at one time had a whipping tree and a rock they set them on to shoot them for execution for crimes they committed.
You mean from the Choctaw tribe? Tribal
shooting their own people,
yeah. Like tribal...
government, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
There was no road down. The tree was down there about a quarter. It's 45 feet around at the base and 2,000 years old.
Is it still there?
No.
Yeah.
But it was then. Lightning hit it in 1982 and killed it. And the last pieces fell about 2 years ago. And then we had double floods last year. It was the worst floods I've had since I've been back here. Since they built the dam up there. They got the lake too full and had to dump it out too fast. They just had to jerk the gates up. But we'd got them down there. We'd go down out a trail, down across the creek, and my sister and I, and we'd got them out to the rock.
So would people call ahead, or?
No, they just showed up most of the time. They call ahead more now. Let me tell you what kind of happened.
Yeah.
In 1940, my folks remodeled that house and took the south wing off to make it face a new highway had been built out there. And we had my grandfather's collection, and we had some collections of our own. We collected everything. I started collecting Indian artifacts when I was 5 years old. My daddy had his hands digging potatoes, and I was running up and down the road looking for airheads. And found some. I still got them in the museum. Some of them in the museum over there. So we were interested in that, and a couple of guys come by and went down to see the tree, kind of on their own hook. And my daddy had a dead sheep out there with a bell on it. They stole that bell. And that started the museum charging. Started charging a quarter apiece. We took control where we had control of the people because of that. So we grew up hearing that history and doing the guiding and telling a little history. And my sister and I both, and did that all the way through high school to some extent. Of course, in high school, when we got to Broken Bow, she made friends with a bunch of girls up there. And that's kind of the first socializing that I did, much of it. And she'd bring those girls out here and ride horses, and I'd help them get the horses and ride with them and go swimming and all those kind of things. But we had some good times a while after we went to Broken Bow, and I'll never forget the girl I thought that was the most elusive, and probably the best liked. She come back here for family reunion by herself, and she was looking for somebody to hang on. She hung on me. I was absolutely amazed. But anyway, we did. Let's see, the Methodist Church provided some dancing for us. We danced at the Methodist Annex. I've been involved in that Methodist Church all the way. Mm-hmm. I joined the church when I was 12 years old. My folks took my sister and I back to the hometown in Texas, where they'd gone to church over there. And that's where we joined the church.
So you grew up in that?
But I grew up as a Methodist, yes.
So part of you growing up here was providing these tours to people. So it
was something we did, yes.
Did you know stories to tell, or?
Well, of course we didn't know much, but we listened to my dad enough we could tell him what it was for. We could tell him the execution rock was where the Indians shot the people convicted of murder.
How'd your dad and your grandpa know what stories to tell?
The history was just here there. See, you get that close, it's just here. It's just kind of in the air. People come by and talking and all that. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's where the history started. Now, when I moved back down here, the first thing I did is research everything I could on Gardner, on Eagletown, which was here. Let's see, what else? There's a whole series of things I researched, just everything I could find. And I still have that information now. So that makes it easier for me to talk about it, is what it amounts to.
Right. Was it hard to find that information when you came back?
No, Oklahoma Historical Society had it. All you had to do was look for it. Mm-hmm. My daddy had a picture of Gardner's tombstone. He never told me where it was. It's over there, the picture's over in the museum, and I started looking for it, and for some reason I thought it was over there east of Eagletown, and I was over there looking around. Somebody told me, said, go down there and see John Bohannon, full-blood Choctaw, preacher. He'll know about it. So I go down there, and he said, yeah, it's just right up on the hill. And found his tombstone, and then I went to President of McCurtain County Historical Society and asked him to see what it took legally to move that up here, the whole grave. And he did. And I've got a certificate right there on the table from the health department. That's one you got to get it from. But a mortician's got to get it. And a mortician's got to go with you when you dig it up and when you plant it back in the ground. We had a friend that went with us, didn't charge us anything. And we did all that. We found no bones in that grave. Found nothing in that grave except a few pieces of his casket hardware.
What does that tell you?
But the whole cemetery had been dug up, been vandalized bad. Mm-hmm. Some kids did it. I talked to one of the kids after he'd grown, and he said they didn't find but one ring in that whole cemetery.
So they went through and dug up looking for stuff.
They thought they were going to get rich, yeah.
What do you think he was ever buried there then?
Oh yeah. There you go. You got your tombstone hardware. That's it. That's it. I think that soil must have been some acid or something. He told me they never found a bone in any of those graves, so the soil was dissolving those bones.
What made you decide to move it?
Because of the vandalism and all that, I thought it ought to be up here for protection.
Did you have much interaction with the Choctaw government, like the Choctaw tribe now, in any of that?
Well, I don't. Hate to
if you don't want to get into it, it's okay. I'm just curious.
I kind of hate to put it on the recorder. I can. I just well do it since you've asked. After I had it up here for 20 years, and one of the Choctaws that was a descendant of Gardner's wife got upset about moving that tombstone, moving that grave. And I did move 3 or 4 other tombstones. They were down in the ground. I thought I got permission to move Gardner's wife because there's another big tombstone there. Well, it turned out to be his 15-year-old son when we got it dug up. So I eventually moved those. But 25, 30 years, I don't know, maybe 40 years later, this guy's Indian that lives down there, got a allotment down there next to that cemetery, got excited for some reason, and he complained to the Choctaw. If they sent one of their policemen out here to investigate the grave moving the grave. And then they turned to investigate it. He turned his information over to the sheriff, and he sent an investigator out here. And the local newspaper man who was mad at me got a hold of it. And he wrote an article in the paper about 2 years, right across the front page. Renowned historian, which that helps some. He at least recognized me a little bit. Being investigated for grave robbery, right across the front of the paper. And he put a 10-year-old picture in there, which helped a little. Well, it backfired on him because it, there wasn't any investigation going on. It quit. And we had everything in the clear. They never did anything about it. Me get a copy of this. I went to the funeral home that the guy that our mortician was in, and they told one could order it. My son went by and tried to get one. He couldn't get it. But that mortician, it was gone, long dead gone. It helped us move it. But the mortician had over there. And I'll appreciate him the rest of my life. But he ordered it, paid for everything, wouldn't let me reimburse him, and got me that certificate. So I got a copy of it on hand.
For officially, the certificate to officially movement.
But anyway, that's kind of.
Well, how did it resolve? So is it still out there?
They turned it over to the FBI 2 or 3 years ago and had murder works in.
That sounds pretty serious.
Well, yeah. Of course, FBI didn't. See, you got a sovereign nation there. They would investigate a sovereign nation.
Right.
FBI never contacted me.
Well, do you think that they want it back for, I guess that's the strange part, right? It's a definite part of
right. I took that
the tribal history.
My son said I should not have done this, but I took him out there and showed him the graves. And I did go and bring the other 3 or 4 tombstones up here. And I took that policeman and I said, now, that's Gardner's. We had complete illegally moved him. He's not going back. But you can take those other back if you want to, but I think they're better off here than they are down there. And I think they finally agreed, but they're still mad at me a little bit. There was a guy over at Antlers called me in, wanted to camp here, bivouac here, and ride Choctaw ponies back to Philadelphia. That was their deal, big deal, which is all right. They're trying to save Choctaw pony breed, what they're trying to do, Choctaw Chickasaw. I said, be fine, I don't have no problem. Well, he called me back, and he said, Gary Batten said we couldn't do it. He said he's got a monument problem with him. So they're still mad at him. And I've done everything in the world for the Choctaws. Traveled a lot of miles working on with them, trying to solve a lawsuit, a lot of stuff for them. And Of course, you know, they're politicians. They got to listen to the constituency a little bit.
Yeah, well, I don't want to dwell on it, but it is interesting that 4 years after Gardner died, your grandpa ends up with the land. Was it any question that it should? Was there tension that maybe it should have stayed with somebody in the tribe versus?
Not to my knowledge, and there was agreement made with the Choctaws when they allotted the land. They were restricted lands. And it was a procedure that they had to follow to sell it, which included a district judge and Choctaw approval. And they got all that, I'm sure. I got all the paperwork on it. But his third wife, Julie, and 2 sons put it up for public auction. That's the reason they had to put it up for public auction. That's part of the requirement. It's got to go to public auction. And actually, my grandfather didn't buy it. A guy by the name of James McDougal bought it. And then turned around and sold it to my grandfather.
I see. And you were telling me earlier, Gardner was well known for fighting allotment, spending a lot of his money fighting allotment.
He spent his money fighting allotment. He was afraid they didn't want a lot in the first place. See, the treaty that you signed when they traded the land in Mississippi for Oklahoma land, what the land would be theirs as long as water runs downhill and the grass grows green. And it'll be sovereign, and it'll belong to the tribe, not to the individual, but the tribe. But the Choctaws supported Confederacy, along with most other tribe in the state. I think every tribe signed an agreement to support them. And the Confederacy promised them then they'd bring them trade goods. That's the main thing that those tribes needed. And so and they furnished soldiers too. So the Choctaws furnished soldiers, and the Creeks furnished soldiers, and the Cherokees, and so they had quite a bit of involvement. They did actually. Some of them furnished soldiers for both sides, especially the Creeks, and maybe a few Choctaws on both sides. But the Choctaws, a number of them, the wealthy ones, owned slaves. So they naturally going to go with the Confederacy. So they got a sign of surrender when the Civil War was over. And that surrender included the allotment of the land. And they didn't have any choice but agree to that. But Gardner still tried to stop it and never allotted any land, but his wife and sons allotted this land.
I see, yeah. Well, it's got some heavy history.
Yeah, it gets to be deep history, and of course I've researched it enough to I probably know as much or more about it than anybody else. Kenny probably knows as much as I do. You got that sharp mind.
Yeah. So maybe talk a little bit about what it is on your property now that people come to see. Like, what are the historic things that people are interested in seeing?
Well, the house, which is 136 years old, I think. Large collection of prehistoric Indian artifacts. A reasonably large collection of fossils and quartz crystals. And so they tour the house. That's what they come to see.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all in the house.
Were those all things that were found on the property here? Oh.
I get that question quite regularly.
Sorry.
That's all right. I don't mind it. We got one big frame that was found on this property. There have been in artifacts with 200 in there, I think. Over 200. But I found stuff, I've collected stuff, and my father did too to some extent, from Wyoming or Montana to Mississippi and North Carolina, and all in between.
So it's something your family's been interested in doing.
Right.
Yeah.
My grandfather collected the beginning here for the collection. Mm-hmm. Before he moved here, he was collecting. I've got a piece over there that he had in his home before he moved over here that my father, 3 or 4 years old, broke. That's a dandy piece, and I don't have but half of it, but I wish I had it all. So it goes back, and he's collecting artifacts. He collected. There's a whole collection of guns over there, early guns that he collected. Mm-hmm.
Was that something that drew him to buy this house? Was because he was interested in the historic part of it?
You want that story?
Well, yeah.
All right. Story begins when my grandfather is maybe 19 or 20 years old. And in Nona, Texas, a little town, I don't know if we got one, not as big as Van. But he was visiting with a constable there on the square, and the constable showed him his new gun, the constable's gun. And he said, well, I got one just like this. Yeah, I like it. And the constable said, well, I'd like to see it. So he brings it up there on the square. Now, this is a tale I get from my cousin who lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And he had more information than anybody. Lost him, but he was like a brother. I really miss him. But anyway, he goes and brings his gun up there. So the constable there on the square, and then he files on him for having a pistol on the square, which is illegal. And they get up there in court and testify in Clarksville, Texas. Which, by the way, that courthouse was built the same year this house was. And I guess my grandfather testified, and then they got the constable on the stand. He called my grandfather a liar. Well, when he stepped off the stand, he pulled a knife and stabbed him a time or two as he walked off the stand, and then broke to run to get away. And somebody grabbed the deputy sheriff who was trying to catch him. He got away, got down the Red River and borrowed a horse, and came over here and stayed a year or two while his father, who was real well-liked, real easygoing and real pious and big in the Methodist Church again, got the old constable over it, got him well, and got everything smoothed down, and he went back away and married and raised a family. But I think he knew about, and this is my point, he knew about this Choctaw country. I think he knew about this house. And I don't know how he found out it was for sale. Now, he's got got a family of 8 kids, and he gets a black woman across the track pregnant. So he essentially he's got to leave, get out of there. And that's about the same time he come over and bought this house. It all kind of ties together.
Mm-hmm.
We have a family reunion here every 2 years. Moran Mims was a child out of that illegitimate
Relationship.
affair. But Moran Mims' daughter comes to some of our family reunions.
So you all have kept up with her? You've kept up with that branch of the family?
Yeah, sort of. She's kind of kept up with us, and we kept up with her.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a strange deal, but she's real nice to have around. I've got cousins that will not say one word to her, but that's their problem, not mine. They resent her, but it's not her fault. No way in the world it's her fault. And I like her, and if she's interested in the family, that's great.
Yeah. So you grew up in the Gardner house?
Right. 2 years old, I moved in.
Was there anything left in the house whenever they bought it? Was there anything from the Gardner family left in the house?
No, I don't think so. There wasn't anything, this is the way I put it, there wasn't anything of Gardner's left when we moved in and after my grandfather died.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's another story with that. You just keep asking for stories.
I do, that's why I'm here.
I think I might have told you that he traded the use of the house and his store to this group of people that had the cattle. And they moved in it. Did I tell you that story?
No.
Okay.
No.
Gardner's broke after he'd been chief, and there's a group of people named Dooley, D-O-O-L-E-Y. I know because it's written on the wall over there. Came down this road, which they built to move the Choctaws on. It became a major highway for about 100 years. It's down under the hill back here. And he made a deal with them. He'd trade the use of the house, and they can't. You don't have any, remember now, you don't have any real estate, no land. It's just an improvements because he didn't lot anything. Yet, anyway, there's lotted later. But they used the house and used the store for that herd of cattle. 1909. Well, he dies in 1906, and I don't know what, I guess they sell the cattle at the state. But the Dooleys then stay there till, I said, he died in 1906, I think I said 9. But the Dooleys stayed there till 1909, and Julie wants to sell a house, and she wants them out of it. So she forces them out, and they leave mad, and this is speculation, but I think they got everything that they could haul off and took it with them. I've got a boot jack that I think is Gardner's, and I've got a brass light hanger that held a lead kerosene lamp.
Mm-hmm.
See, we never got electricity over there until I went to college in 1948. That fall, I got electricity. And then we put water in the house in 1956, and that's another story, but I'm full of
So when you all moved out to move into this house, when you built this house next door, has anybody lived in that house since?
No, not since. That's the last living there.
In 75.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Years off the road.
So have you kept it up as a museum this whole time?
Yeah. Part of my dream was to make the whole thing into a museum for a long time, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
My father tried his best to sell this to the state of Oklahoma. But, let's see, I believe it was Henry Bellman was governor, he was a Republican, he didn't want to spend the money. And he had it priced cheap. I think he wanted $65,000 for 600 acres and all of the museum and all the historic stuff.
So he wanted to sell it as a historic site.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted them to give it to the historical society. They'd buy it and give it to the historical society.
Did he try and sell it to the Choctaw Nation? Or I guess that would have been, they wouldn't have been back around until the mid-70s.
No, they didn't have any money until...
Right. Later on.
Yeah, later on when we got the casinos going.
Mm-hmm.
But they still won't take any interest in those graves. They won't try to keep them up. Well, a few of them they'll keep up. But I've reported graves, they don't keep them up. And see, this set of graves that I stole had not had any help. It just sat there and vandalized. Choctaws did nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they didn't know about it, but they should have been finding out about it some way. And I thought, I felt like I was rescuing that stuff. I still do today.
Yeah. Well, you got a long relationship with the history of the people with those that are attached to this property.
I think the world a lot of the Choctaws. Kenny's wife's full-blood Choctaw.
Mm-hmm. Well, you live, Broken Bow, McCurtain County is the deep seat, as a part of the Choctaw territory. You have a lot of history there.
This is where they dumped them, essentially, when they moved them to Oklahoma. When they crossed the line, they turned loose and they go where they wanted to.
Yeah. So how did that... I'm having a hard time remember what we talked about before I turned the recorder on and after we started. So I'm sorry if it's a reiteration.
That's all right, no problem.
But as far as Gardner choosing this location for his house, do you know why they picked this? Is this sort of where they ended? Is this the end of it, where they sort of stopping point, or?
Well, no. See, this is a long time after removal, which is what they want to call it now.
Right.
I don't know. When removal occurred, it was a store established here, and then there was a missionary that had been working with the Choctaws in Mississippi, established a mission here. He bought a log cabin from a white man who wasn't supposed to be here, and established a mission right here on these grounds. And then this was the county seat.
The Eagletown, right?
Eagletown.
Okay.
This was the county seat of Eagle County in the Choctaw Nation. When he came to Eagletown, he started clerking in the post office, but it was on the other side of the river. Yeah, what was the guy's name? He was married Petey Piston's sister. He was a doctor. I can't remember his name now, but Petey Piston had a bunch of sisters, and they married prominent people.
Okay. So that's how he ended up here. There was already
I think
there was a small
because
community.
the store was here and this location was there,
Okay. Okay.
and it was the road come by, and it was a pretty good location.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
There's all kind of stories about what went on here, and of course there was at least 3 executions, I think, here, and the last one run, he didn't get executed. Gardner had the store and the post office out there. The remains of it are still there. They had the Execution Rock, which is the only county in the Choctaw Nation that I know of that had anything from set on. I've got an account of an execution done at Red Oak, and the guy just stepped out of the wagon when he come. He just sent him home, told him to come back in 90 days. And he stepped out of the wagon and spread his blanket out on the ground, sat down in the middle of it, kicked his shoes off. I don't know why he did that, but said he's ready, and they shot him there. They did generally shoot him out here. This rock's about this big. Stands up like that, and set him on it.
So how do you know that's what that was?
That's come down from my father and from whoever was here. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm sure to document it somewhere too.
Yeah, and it sounds
It
like
should be documented. Since it's the only one, I don't think there's another one.
Sounds like you've had people over the years when you were younger that remembered this is that is from when the Gardners lived here that would tell you stories. Did I understand that correctly?
My father learned it from them and people that lived here, and he then passed it on to me.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Plus all the research I did after I got here, and the tombstone.
I'm gonna wrap up this part of it here in a minute, but I just a couple more questions. Do you have a favorite story from your research with the Gardner house?
You really can't tell you one, no.
No?
No.
Do you have one that people ask you about the most? Or frequently?
Well, I tell him he had 3 wives and 14 children, and they often asked all at the same time, and the answer is no. Yeah, of course, you know, I think it was Quanah Parker had 5 wives and built a dormitory on top of his star house out there. But no, he married a girl at Wheelock named Lucinda James. She had 1 child, Elvira. I got her picture over there. And she had descendants, quite a few descendants. The Gardner name didn't last past his sons. Where was I going with that?
What people ask you most about it
Oh,
when they come
yeah.
out to look at it?
And he married, I was telling you who he married. He moved over to Eagletown and brought Elzira with him and married Lucy Christie, which I tell a lot of people this and they always think it's funny. It was quite a pretty good deal that his second wife's name is so close to his first wife's name. If he called her the wrong name, he went in trouble. And then Lucy died. She had 5 children and died. And I think both of them died after childbirth. You heard me say, I think. I don't have it documented. And then he married Julie, Lucy's sister. She had 8 children and outlived him a few years. Not many, but a few.
Mm-hmm. And she's the one that sold the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She and Zach and Scott. There is one connection between Gardner and my family. His son, Scott, let me see if I get this straight, married many more. Full-blood Irish, I think. And they had 2 girls, Louise and Emma, right down here, just across the road here. In fact, they allotted land there that my father farmed and paid them rent for. But anyway, Louise, my father's brother Jesse was back and forth over visiting my grandfather, and he got acquainted with Louise. And I don't know what he was dating her or what, but Scott Gardner had died by then, and many more has married Osborne Blanche. And Mr. Blanche, and we called him that all our lives, didn't think my uncle was good enough for his daughter, thought he was a bit wild for his daughter. So Jesse rides up one day and pulls her up behind him on the saddle, and they run off and get married. They had 3 sons, which the first cousins of mine that were great grandsons of Gardner. They're all dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have them anymore. One of them was 2 or 3 days older than me, I think.
That's pretty neat.
One thing I've done, kind of a crude research, to see if there's another Stiles in my whole family that lived to be 86 years old. I can't find one. I'm the champion.
Really?
Right. They all died young anyway, but you'd think you'd find one somewhere. And I've researched it back to 4 G's, great-grandfather,
Yeah.
3 great-grandfathers.
And nothing there.
The women lived that long, but not the men.
Huh. Well, I'm curious, since I've been looking at you, there's a portrait behind you that says...
That's John Stiles, my great-great-grandfather. By the way, he's got a pistol and a knife on his belt.
I do see that. What is that photograph from? Was it a tintype?
Yeah, I believe it was like a daguerreotype or tintype one.
Okay, yeah.
And it was on glass.
On his lantern
My
sides.
cousin, my aunt got it, and my cousin inherited it, and they broke it. But I've got a guy that he turned out to be a good friend that can put that thing, that keep it back together and photograph it and make you a good photograph of it.
It looks good.
This was taken before it was broke.
Oh, okay.
And he presented that to me in one of the family reunions. And that cousin is not the Stiles. It was his mother that was the Stiles.
I see. That's interesting. Well, that's sort of outside. I was just...
That's just everything.
Just curious. That's what I'm looking at. Well, is there anything else in regards to your sort of study with history, either the Gardner House or McCurtain County in general, or your veterinary practice that you want to talk about that we didn't get to?
There was a story I was going to tell you, and I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
You asked me about something, I said there was a story that goes with it.
Oh, there was a story that went with everything. Let me think.
Well, it does. I've got a story over there. I mean, every one of them got a story behind it.
I'm sure that's true. Let me think of what I didn't follow back to. Was it about Gardner?
I don't think so, but it might have been.
Or about you living on a next door to a museum for most of your life.
Lived in it.
In it and manning and taking care of it, yeah.
A big part of my life, you bet. No, it's a great asset, I think, to me, and a great responsibility.
So I know that you have a really good relationship with the Oklahoma Historical Society. Has there been interest from them for that as a historic site after the Bellman era didn't work out with your dad?
No, I have not been interested in selling it to them, but they're overloaded with sites, and they don't need any more.
I was just curious if it had
we
ever
got
come
a
up.
big fight going right now over a site, and I think Kenny and I are on one side and kind of stuck our feet in the mud over the Sequoia site.
Mm.
They want to give that to the Cherokees, or trade it to them. It's got a bunch of money in it, which they're hurting for money bad. But we think that is so important it should not go to the Cherokees but stay with the Historical Society.
Mm.
And I feel the same way about the Claremore site. Because both of those men are much more than Cherokees, you know. They're Sequoia, that's an international known situation. Nobody's ever done it, too, what he did with that syllabary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
Yeah.
Will Rogers is the one at Claremore. I think Will Rogers is just as important. He's not as important as Sequoia in a way. They're completely different. Will Rogers is so important for the PR for this state.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been so important if he hadn't died, too.
Yeah. That's true. He was.
Some point in time, I want to talk about publishing a book or two.
Well, let's talk about it right now.
I thought I had a copy laying here somewhere. Where did I do it?
You see, you co-authored
With
Bob Burke.
Burke, yes. Bob Burke is a high-powered lawyer in Oklahoma City, but was raised here in Oklahoma.
Oh, I didn't realize
So I
Bob.
knew him here.
I didn't realize he was from here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the fur trade in Oklahoma, right?
It was the Bounty of Nature, that's the way he titled it, with a second title, Fur Traders in Oklahoma. And I documented 223 fur traders, I think, in that book.
So how'd you do that?
Western history papers, Oklahoma Historical Society, all kinds of books I got. For years I'd pick up one and, I got books I'd read and there'd be one in there.
Why were you interested in that?
Well, I've been a trapper all my life. And then up there at Holdendale, I was in the Creek Nation, and I got interested in collecting Creek artifacts, which were fur trade items. The 1800s artifacts. I got a big collection. I think the biggest private and maybe the biggest collection of all of Creek artifacts because I put it together up there. Mm-hmm. They don't belong here, but I'm not taking them back up there either.
So you all co-published this. You co-authored this book about the research you've done. Then does it include any of the images from the artifacts that you have?
Yes, it does. It's got two, three of those.
Okay.
I also got an image of me holding 6 cows or 5 cows or something. That's the most important page in there. That's what I tell everybody. People look at it and say, well, turn to page 82.
So are you an official trapper in the state, or is it something you just do?
No, it's something I did for a hobby.
Yeah.
I learned when I was 10 years old I started trapping. My father kind of helped me start it. Mm-hmm. My mother bought me 2 traps, 10 or 11 years old. Another story. I lost both of them, and she finally bought me another one, and I sold one raccoon and one possum out of that first year's trap, and I was hooked because we didn't have much. I didn't have much access to any way to earn money, and of course that's almost like the Indian artifact is too. I tell people that's a something for nothing hobby is what it is. Of course, you spend lots of time and energy and money, but it's still kind of a something for nothing.
So have you sold? Is that what part of it you would sell those, or you would just keep them? I'm trying to figure out what the something for it is.
Yeah, well, no, they're not. I don't sell artifacts at all.
Oh, but the fur, right?
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes. There's an auction market at Malvern, Arkansas, which is close to Hot Springs. And I've been going there for years. Now they got so darn cheap I couldn't afford to drive down there with them. So I didn't trap any this year. Mm-hmm. My son told me it's time to quit too, but I'm not ready to quit.
You're still doing it?
A little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I love to catch a bobcat or a mink. And we hadn't talked about this at all.
Yeah.
I was defeated for re-election on the Oklahoma Historical Society, and I don't know what year that was.
For the board?
Yep. Which is devastating. But I stood up before the board and told them how much I appreciated all of them and how much I enjoyed serving with them. And then I said, I've always supported term limits, and I think it's come back to haunt me. They didn't know what I was going to say when I said that, but they really got a good laugh out of that.
I'm sure that's true.
So, I don't know if things have a way of happening, maybe divine again. 3 or 4 months later, well, to begin with, the president of the Oklahoma Wildlife Federation, which is a private organization that supported the Oklahoma Wildlife Conservation Commission and the department, what all they did. But anyway, about 5 months after I got defeated, I was in Choctaw, Oklahoma, at the nursery. Got a phone call from a friend who lived right down here. Said, "Are you still interested in serving on the Oklahoma Wildlife Commission?" I said, "You bet. It's been a lifelong dream. And the only way you can serve on there most of the time is to donate $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 donation." Well, I can't do that. He said, "Well, the guy they had from Hugo they've come up with some baggage he had, bad history he had, and Keating does not want anybody with any kind of a flaw in their background. His name's laying on your desk, goes, Wildlife Federation put it. They recommended me. I didn't tell you that. The president still lives here in Brooklyn. They've dissolved. They're not exist anymore. And he said he got to appoint, this is Friday, and he said he got to appoint somebody today. And if you're interested in it, Harlan Stonesoffer, who was on the board, and he had the money. He had the money, enough money that he could pretty well tell them who they were going to, Keating, who was going to appoint. And he'd give money to both candidates, Democrat and Republican. So he appointed me Friday afternoon. I'm appointed Saturday and served 8 years on it. So that I'm not on it, and I can't serve on both of them at the same time. So it doesn't interfere with my historical society because I'm not on there. And after my 8 years up, well, to begin with, after I got on a commission, my wife said I'd like to serve on that Historical Society board. I said, okay, I'll see what we can do. So I went over there and hunted up the president and told him that Frances would like to serve. He said, okay, we'll find a place to put her on. Well, it just turns out the guy that defeated me, actually they elected 3 at large, and he was one of the 3 that won and when I lost. A good friend, terrible deal that we lost him, had an automobile accident and got killed him. So they put her in his place. So she got my place.
She took your place over, that's right.
And she served till she died, which wasn't too long. Well, I get through with the Wildlife Commission and I walk back over again. Now this is really tragic. And told them I'd like to get back on the board. Well, they kept me on the Indian Heritage Committee all that time. I wanted to serve on that, and they just kept me on there as an outside member on the committee. And so, and the president said, yeah, we'll get you on there. Well, my good friend, real good friend, who is now president of Murray State College, which makes him closer, gets killed in a car wreck. And when he went down there, I don't know if I told you, did I tell you about the girl? Oh yeah, I got acquainted with in chemistry.
Yeah.
Well, she graduated from Murray, and my daughter graduated from Murray, and let's see, we have somebody else. Anyway, we all gathered up and went down there for their annual, whatever it is, reunion. And of course, I can't think of his name right now, but anyway, he's president, and he just kind of rolled out the red carpet for us. And we have a great time, and well, I'm on the Wildlife Commission. And I got a guy that's head of fisheries down there at Lake Texoma. He was always the best PR man that the department had. I've told them and him both that. He did it by taking people fishing down there. He knew how to take them fishing, and he could get them to catch fish. He'd take any politician want to go, and he'd invite them. Well, as soon as I get on the commission, he invites me, even though that might have been a conflict of interest. I go, and Francis and I go, and he ends up taking us several times, took every one of my kids at least once, and their families. And he got to be a real good friend. I haven't heard from him in a while, but he called and checked on me a long time. He's retired too now, but I asked Paul Mark, I said, would you mind taking, I wish I could think of his name, President of Murray State College fishing? No, I said, get him down here, I'll take him. So I called Bill Pennington, I believe was his name. I called Bill and told him and asked him if he wanted to go fishing. Yeah, I'll go. We go down there on the lake, I go. And when we get in the boat, he says, I've got a meeting I just cannot miss, and I got to quit at, I don't know, 11 o'clock or something. Okay, and we get out there and we get to fishing. We don't hardly have a bite till 11 o'clock. All of a sudden, he catches 2 fish at about 11 o'clock. Picks up the phone calls and cancels the meeting. And we fish and catch a good string of fish. And I think I got him set up a second time, and I had him scheduled to go once more when he got killed. Mm-hmm. So everything intertwines. Mm-hmm. And especially if you try and got good friends, and Bill was a good friend. He was on the board of directors at Oklahoma Historical Society, and had been for several years. Well, now, here I am. They put me on his plate. I asked for get on, they put me on his plate.
Oh, I see, yeah.
It was a terrible tragedy. He came by here, he lost, his wife left him when he went to Murray. He remarried, came by here on his honeymoon and stopped visiting. And had his new wife with him. And I thought the world of Bill, It's kind of hard to take his place on the board, but
So are you on there now?
uh-huh.
Is that the term you're on? That's the.
Yeah, I'm still serving that one. It's getting you got to run for re-election every 3 years. It's a statewide election. But I was re-elected in April for 3 more years. I'll be 89 years old then. I don't know if I'll run again or not.
You got some time to think about it.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I learned a whole lot today. You talked to me almost 2.5 hours. You probably feel it, but.
Oh yeah, I get tired, but I don't mind. You know, you can tell I enjoy it.
That's why I didn't stop you. I didn't.
And I didn't enjoy all these stories. And
Well, you've done an incredible variety of things too.
I guess you don't know half of them. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, that's true too. I know.
You know, I did a little of everything.
Well, so I guess one of the things I'd like to close with maybe is reflecting back. How do you think that your time at OSU maybe fit into some of this? And you know, if you had students who are looking to go into veterinary science today, do you have advice for them?
You bet. I do. My
Imagine-
feeling is, well, I know that the veterinary profession supported all this. My life and my kids and my wife and all these tales I'm telling you. And without it, I probably would have been a cowboy down here on the ranch. It has been great for me. That veterinary profession has been great for me. It was one of the best things I ever did. And I'd have to recommend, give all kinds of kudos to OSU for getting to college there, taking me in and training me.
Mm-hmm.
Provided me with the professors that they did. And they had some. Dr. Peterson, I mentioned him.
Yeah.
And of course, I worked for him. Got close to. He wrote a book, workbook, to use in dissecting a horse. See, we used a horse for our anatomy, and then we studied the difference in the horse and a cow. But we had to have a horse every semester. But he wrote this workbook, and then, can you believe I collated that thing by hand, or I did a lot of it. And he was the first that wrote it, and he's well known for writing it. They wanted some hogs one time, and I called my daddy, and he bought me 3 hogs. They were wild hogs. I took them back up there and embalmed them. All kinds of things like that went on. I was going to tell you another one.
From while you were at OSU? While you were at OSU?
Well, I took that there when I was working, see, for the anatomy department.
Oh, yeah.
That old tied to vet school. See, might get something else I took. Oh, Dr. Peterson also taught a poisonous plants course. And I helped him a little bit, starting a garden that is still there today, a poisonous plant. And we got them down here. And I knew some of them. And I said something else that interested me, and I studied it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it sounds like you had opportunities to figure out what you wanted to do and try out different things while you were at Stillwater.
And that veterinary medicine gave me that opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
as well as to raise and educate my kids and build this home and
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
There's something else I wanted to, but you got time to do the museum?
I would love to go see the museum, yeah.